How to Be a Successful Software Developer by Uncle Bob. What does he have to say? I'm Chris Thass. I'm a KMP developer. Tech Support said they're going to close that tomorrow or Tuesday for sure. They promised this time. So I'm going to be reacting to this video, which I want to be a successful software developer. So what does Uncle Bob say about this?
How many languages have you seen go by in the last 30 years?
Oh, a bunch.
Let me paint just a little landscape on the computer languages for you. Does anybody remember when COBOL was actually popular?
Yes. But look at me, I'm old.
That was the 1960s. And then after that...
Oh, 70s, 80s, depending on the field, it's still popular today. IRS seems to love it. So it depends on what your popularity group is. Who are you hanging out with?
After that, we had C. C became popular in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, it was badass.
C++ became popular in the mid-80s.
Major. No.
Then Java became popular in
Okay, you were started off good, but then turned into C++.
1995, and C# right after that, because they're really the same language. And then Ruby became popular right around...
That was pretty cool. Before that, with all the other stuff that was before that, we had to do these Perl and all this other goofy stuff. You had to write it in C and write a web server in C. No, not doing that. So yeah, so Ruby was amazing. Yeah.
2005, 2006. The languages come in waves, and the waves rise and then they fall.
But why do they rise and fall? Is because they allow you to do something new that was difficult to do before. And that's why people get involved, because they now get the people that were looking to didn't quite make it on the last thing, were looking for something that was a little bit easier and that was more productive, that we could actually, instead of costing $10,000 to get a website up, it cost $100 or $500 or whatever of their own, relatively speaking. I don't know what the prices were. So that's what happens, is like a new capability comes on, people get all excited about it, becomes like an industry standard. And then then from that thing, people kind of get like, well, what is the thing? All the kinks and weird stuff, it's all the grungy, weird crap starts to become obvious. And then you have people in that group, and the people at the C group who have been watching this whole thing, they start to create new languages themselves. It's just, but only if there's creating a new or easier or cheaper or faster or funner experience to create this stuff.
And the career software developer surfs those waves.
I don't know about that. You kind of get wiped out, because you get caught in it. You get good at the technology, and you're implementing stuff. You're signing contracts. Checks are being cashed. People are going on vacation. Braces are being put on. You're got a 401k fund. You're doing great. So, and all of a sudden, this new thing, when you're up top here, this new thing that started down here, where you're like, fuck that, it was stupid, it's a toy, it's dumb, it's crap. All of a sudden, there's this moment which you don't know what happens. You don't know what the crossover happens. When that new thing's coming up and your thing's going down, there's a crossover moment. And it's like, oh no, you have to like retool, relearn. You're gonna be down here, no checks, no contracts, nothing. And you're like, hopefully I can keep up and catch up to that next thing. It's so brutal.
You always have to be ready for when the wave starts to go down. You got to be ready so that you can leap onto the next wave.
I mean, if you're lucky, I mean, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're like, oh man, I can't take this anymore. And you burn out, or you're like, you're fried, you get married, get divorced, and like you're out doing a single life again, or living in one bedroom, depressed. Oh, my life. It's like there's all kinds of stuff that happens, buddy.
Because you don't want to ride the wave down.
Well, some people. I mean, if you stuck out with COBOL, or you got involved with COBOL when you were like 19, 18 years old, went back in like 19 at the tail end of the 1980s, like 1990 or so. You were like a teenager back then. You could write your ticket, because the systems that people implemented, like IRS and all these other companies, COBOL, all this ATM processing transaction stuff, they didn't think about updating and upgrading, and they thought they could put it off, and they think the AI is going to solve it for them, and it's not going to solve it for them. We got to rewrite all that stuff, and that's why there's a big opportunity right now with that stuff.
Hard to recover from down there.
Yeah, people write it down all the time. I mean, it's kind of normal. I mean, you get good at something, you get good at this particular tool, and you're get good at that particular thing, and people think it's going to last forever, and it doesn't. It's like, who moved my cheese? There's a book. Have you ever seen it? Who moved my cheese? And it's all about this human fault that we all have, that when things are good we want to, and we got something successful, we're excited about it, and we think we're geniuses, and we think it's going to last forever. That's also our fault. We don't know this is a season thing, and we get really upset when the season is over and we have to go into hibernation and rebuild for the next spring. It takes effort to do that because you're in wintertime, it's cold, and you're like, oh, the light's going dark.
So you, as software developers, should be learning all the time, learning a new language every year or two.
I mean, or a framework or some new technology, some new skill set, whatever. Yes, that's advice is good, but the new language, is it giving you some new ability? He's confounding a new language with some new ability, when that's not always the case. You might have the same language but a new ability attached to, like KMP, like Kotlin, right? People like went from Java to Kotlin. People are like, oh, it's just a replacement for Java. It's like, not really. They're doing something else, and people are like, well, nah, they're not doing that. That won't be a thing. It's like, I think it will be a thing. I think it actually is going to be turned into a thing, because I can see where they're going with it. And it's like, okay, so now, if you've gone to Kotlin, you went from Java. It's like, fuck Java. It's like Java engineers like, there's no reason for the Kotlin. I can do for everything I can. It's like, yes, on the back end you don't have a reason, but if you want to do front end with Android, we were forced to do it. So I was like, oh, goddamn, I gotta learn another damn language when Google forced us all to go to Kotlin. But now they forced me to go through it. I'm like, okay, I'm on the other side of it. It is better. It is better than Java. The ideas are better. It's more refined. It's more okay. Well, all the reasons, and they give us this new ability. It's like, I can do my coding for doing web applications, desktop applications, Android, iOS, and whatever else, watches, whatever else, all with Kotlin, all with one UI language, all with one language. So it's like, oh, that's cool. So I lucked out, because I was forced to get into something that I didn't really want to do, and but it just lucked out. So I was like, but I didn't want to learn a new language. I wasn't trying to learn a new language. I was actually just trying to master Java so I could do Android applications. I wasn't trying to do this other stuff. So I lucked out. But most of the time, I mean, you wash out. So I stayed on C too much. I stayed on OS 9, and for Mac, I stayed on it too long, and I'm super badass on that platform, but it's gone now. And by the time I sold that company, I didn't really want to get into development. It's like, saw Android and was like, oh no, okay, now I'll go learn Java, because I want to do Android apps. I want to do this mobile. I want to get on this mobile phone thing. I want to see how do I do that? It's like, well, you gotta learn Java. It's like, if they had told me I had to learn Kotlin or Basic or whatever, I would have learned it to do the thing. It's like, no, I gotta learn this thing. It's like, oh Jesus. And I thought it'd be relatively simple, but they kept, at that moment was the moment they started changing Java a lot. I was like, this is learning a new language. It sucks. But anyway, if you have to go through that, if you're gonna be a software developer, it's gonna be stuff like that the whole time.
You should learn new platforms, new operating systems, new frameworks. You should be fiddling around and playing.
I mean, you can play around, but just look at the new capabilities of those. That's really what it is. Like, is there a new capability that you want to learn? Some reason why? Not just frivolously flashing around like, oh, look at that. There's another here. There's another platform here. Another framework. It's like, randomly skipping from one to the next is ridiculous. That is a waste of time. Now, if you have a new capability, a new thing you want to try and do that don't have the tools for, or you see this new thing coming up and you want to see, is this operational? Is this useful? Yeah, you should be keeping your eyes open. But like, there's so many different ways that the things can go. You kind of have to follow your interests as well, and sometimes they're not going to work out. And that's just how it goes.
Stuff all the time, because our industry is one that is constantly changing.
I mean, it has been, but there's things that always are the same. So that's true too. So the days of the giant maybe getting under attack by the days of the micro niche, nano niche, micro monopoly.
And your job will very likely change out from under you in ways that you cannot anticipate.
Yeah, true. So it's like, what are we actually doing with this job? That's why it's important to realize it's not the coding, right? It's this other stuff. It's dealing with humans and their problems and having a solution that you have enough skill around software that you can build a solution that meets a customer need that they feel is valuable enough to pay you. I don't know if this is not rocket science, but I'm gonna just typing in the code. For loops. I got for loops. I got if then. I got a case statement. It's like that's not it, man.
If you are not ready for it.
Yeah, nobody is.
When do you do this learning?
Because the way it's marketed, right? It's like, no, it's just, see, if you learn coding, if you learn the for loop, and I don't care about for loops. I care about lists on the screen. I care about a list that somebody can choose from, on a list of items on the screen. Well, then you got to learn about the for loop and the case statement. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
There's a fundamental truth about being a professional. It is your responsibility to take care of your career. It is not your employer's responsibility to take.
Who says it? Whoever thought that, boomer? See, I'm Gen X. I can make fun of him. I guess when he was growing up, the employer did take care of their employees. Yeah, that's not been the way. That's not been a thing, Uncle Bob, for a long time. Uncle Bob.
Take care of your career. Do not try.
You're lucky. You're lucky if you're in a situation where your company cares about you and wants to keep you there forever. Uncle Bob, that's not been a thing for 20, 25 years. Come on, Uncle Bob.
Trust your employer with your career.
Yeah, no kidding. Really? We don't kind of know that. You don't trust. Who trusts their employer with their career? Are you crazy? I mean, maybe you've worked for the government and it's a guarantee they can't fire you. It's like, okay, well, are they really thinking about career at that point? It's more like, I'm just going to screw off as much as I can and soak the government for as long as possible until this milk train runs out. But I guess before 2000, I mean, the places I've worked, they didn't really give a shit about that. I guess there was an upper echelon that they gave a shit about. But the lower people, they kind of started treating us as expendable pieces back in the 90s. It was like the startup culture is pretty much, that's kind of how it was, man. It's kind of like that now. Now it's just generalized to the whole economy. At will work, they can just fire anytime you want for no reason, just because we heard about an AI is going to take people's jobs. Get rid of all the developers. Fire those bastards.
Now, your employer may help with it. Might buy you some books. Might send you to conferences.
I mean, you're lucky if they do that. That's rare. It's a rare place that does that. I have worked at a place that did that, but they kind of was like, only if you get the rest of your work done. I said, well, we're going to a conference to learn about stuff. Well, I don't know. Can we take the schedule hit? Do we have to take some story points off of some of the push some story points? Okay, we're gonna have to do extra duty. Or we're gonna have. It's like, dude.
Who knows what your employer might.
It's very rare, and even then, it's like they're kind of like real nervous about it. It's like, do you realize we're knowledge workers, right? We kind of have to know about how stuff works, and we can probably give you a heads up of what move future directions and where to do stuff. When you want to know that from us, like some places do, and some places like, what are you talking about? We've already made a decision upstairs.
Help you with, and that's fine. That's good. But you must maintain responsibility for your own career. And what that means is that when you give 40 hours a week to your employer to do the best job you can, you are not done. You then go home and you provide another 20 hours or 10 hours or 15 hours.
Holy shit, Bob. I mean, what kind of job is this? When we factor in that, we're making like minimum wage, buddy. What about family? What about friends? What about like board games at night? And no, you got about 20 hours. So that's 60 hours a week. Holy shit, Bob. No wonder people don't have friends. They're listening to Bob. Holy shit, we better get another 60 hours a week.
Hours for your career. You go home and you fiddle around with a new language. You fiddle around with a new operating system.
No friends, no family, no children, no dating, no goofing off, no enjoying life, no vacation. I'm going to fiddle around with this. 20 hours a week fiddling around.
Fiddle around with a
new... You better fiddle. You want to work in software 40 hours a week? We got to put another 20 hours a week fiddling around.
Discipline. You learn something new.
There's periods when you're gonna go through that, yeah. But as a general case, if this is what you expect software to be a 60-hour a week thing, grind, unsustainable. But Uncle slave driver.
You may say, yes, but I've got a family, I've got commitments. Well, I understand that. Believe me, I understand that. But you chose a career that requires grooming.
Oh my God, this guy.
And maintenance. And
what? 20 hours a week? Dude. At the expense, I got you. Well, I know you got a family, but you're gonna have to be locked away every night. Papa, have I seen your face in weeks? No, I got. Uncle Bob said I gotta do that 20 hours a week, and I'm on hour 18. See you in 2 hours, kid.
If you do not undertake that, then your career will falter.
Oh my God.
So
only the most ultimate spurred out spurg autist. I'm fiddling. No wonder the autists love and adore this guy. Get out of here, kid. I got to put the 20 hours in for Uncle Bob. He said I'm just a loser if I don't put 20. I'm at 48 hours. Get out of here. Quit asking me to read you a bedtime story.
Find another career or expect to invest.
Oh, find another career. So it's like, nope. You have to be completely dedicated, super ultra nerd times 1,000, 10x ultra programmer, or find another career. Oh, okay. So, Uncle Bob, I knew this was going to be a good one.
When you go to a doctor, that doctor puts in a hard week at the office, 40 hours a week, seeing patients, doing surgeries at the hospital, doing all kinds of stuff. You kind of hope when he goes home, he cracks open the books and reads the medical journal.
You kind of hope. This is so boomer take, man. He's a totally boomer. He totally gave me the boomer. Look at that. He hopes. He hopes his doctor is at home after work. Putting in the hours doing studying after he's done 10 years of medical school, 60 hours, 70 hours, like he's recommending we do all the time. These guys are putting in 60 to 80 hour weeks down at the thing, sleeping on the job, snacks are set up. He's saying he hopes. Uncle Bob, you silly
and
goose.
I hope he's putting in the time after hours to stay up on what's going on.
He's not.
His field, because his field is changing.
He's waiting for the medical representative for the pharmaceutical company to come in and tell him the latest cure. And you're going to give your patients this, or you want to take me out to dinner tonight, and I'll give you a discount. Discount.
Rapidly. If you ever get sued and you need to hire a lawyer, you know that lawyer's going to be putting in a lot of
he's got the thing. He's gonna
time in the courtroom and in the office.
He's gonna be time in the courtroom, really, Uncle Bob? He's gonna be
with you, and then you gotta hope he goes home and he cracks the law books and reads.
Oh, he says that what he thinks he's. This guy, Uncle Bob. What do you think these people? What century are you living in, sir?
And what's going on? Because he's got to stay ahead.
The law, dude. LexisNexis. You think he's over there at the LexisNexis terminal looking up all the Colorado case? Come on, man. This guy, delusional. Like, whoa, you really think this is how things work, man? Okay, I guess he's in this elevated level of conference talker speakers where he doesn't have to deal with the hoi polloi the problems of the common man. Like,
of what's going on in the law. You have to do the same thing too.
Really? Have to? Uncle Bob says I have to work 60 hours a week to stay relevant. No, he is right. There are times, brief periods, because if you do this too long, you will make yourself ill. Where you do have to kind of put in extra hours, usually towards the end of a project or put some push sometime. But if that becomes the standard pace and just 60 hours a week is expected, and like, what happened to our high trust society? What happened to people having families? What happened to people forming families? And What happened to our housing prices now that nobody wants to? All the kids are just staying at home with their parents until they're 45. Uncle Bob, now come on.